Drunk, ain't no coming back. Shooter and the block 730. Guys, what's going on? How y'all making out? Guys, I know what was going on yesterday with my phone. Guys, I don't know. This is just part of the content creation stuff you gotta deal with. YouTube, after a while, if I don't clear like the cache and the data on my phone, whatever app I use, it glitches up. Guys, yesterday, I was using YouTube, like, I think I uploaded shorts or whatever I did yesterday. Guys, it worked, but like, whenever I tried to make a live video, for some reason, the microphone on my phone, it turned the permission off, guys. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Like I said, I think one of y'all mentioned it in the comments with the sound, but I want y'all to put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me. Make sure the sound is good. Let me make sure everything's good on my end. Hold on, guys. I've got my Bluetooth turned off. But guys, we got to talk about this. This is a very important topic. And guys, I got 2 more videos I got to put up. I just came from a call that I had this morning, but it wasn't really much of anything. I think the customer, he called me yesterday and said that he couldn't get the unit to stop. He couldn't get the AC to stop turning on. The AC was running nonstop for like 2 days, and he said he had to take the thermostat off the wall in order to turn the AC off. But as soon as I got there, the thermostat was on fan on, so it wasn't much of. But real quick, guys, I had at least 3 customers within the past 2 weeks, all in the same dilemma, guys. And for you guys that don't know, like I said, we're getting into the full swing of the AC season. So like, there's going to be a bunch of no AC calls, estimates, you name it, guys. There's going to be a bunch of that. But guys, I had a call. When was this? Yesterday. I'm going to put this up. If not today, guys, I'm going to put this call up tomorrow. I had the 3rd customer we went to within the past 3 weeks. Prime example, they had an older system, whatever the case is. They got a new system put in, but they got like an 18, 19, 20 SEER AC unit put in. And guys, make a long story short, when the system was installed, it worked fine. But 7 to 8 years later, once the warranty that the customer signed up for goes away, now when shit starts to break down, when those inverter boards go out, once those ECM, condensed fan motors go out, now the customer's upset with us because we're coming back out there to diagnose it and fix it. But once you tell the customer that, hey, the price of this inverter is going to be $2,500, they look at you like you got 2 heads, guys. Like, and that made me think about it. This isn't the first rodeo. We deal with this stuff all the time. But and guys, like, this is no slight towards other companies or even manufacturers, because I want to go over in detail what happened yesterday. But guys, total cost of ownership of, or TCO, however you guys want to call it. A lot of customers, you need to understand, these high efficiency equipment, this 20 SEER, 21, 22 SEER AC equipment, the perks, the features and benefits of high efficiency equipment is great, guys. Like, assuming, customers, do their own due diligence, look it up, if you're looking for a more energy efficient solution, or if you have, solar or whatever the case is, always have an intended outcome. I'm talking from a consumer standpoint. Always have an intended outcome of what you want to achieve before making a purchase. Because I tell customers all the time, for you guys that's just getting in here, I'm just trying to make sure my volume is good. For you guys that's just getting in here, I went off on a tangent yesterday, but my audio wasn't working. Something was going on with my phone. But I tell customers all the time, like, I'm talking, for first time homeowners. If you get lucky, assuming you only have one place of residence, if you get lucky, maybe you got to make a decision twice within your lifetime as far as replacing a heater AC unit. You're not going to make these decisions every year. So like, I don't, me personally, I won't recommend customers rushing to get something. But guys, you do have to understand that, in the summertime, if your house is 100 degrees, you're not, some people got the means to staying at a hotel for 2 weeks until they figure it out. But no one's, at the end of the day, that's where you live at. You want to be comfortable where you live at. So a lot of people, sometimes they don't do their due diligence and look up, what they want to get or what the intended outcome is, pros and cons, what the TCO is, what's the total cost of ownership of a particular piece of equipment. This is information that, like I said, it's not, it's our job to explain this to customers, but it's on them to do their due diligence to make sure they know what's behind the curtains of everything that they do. Because most of the time, guys, a customer is really not going to understand it until shit hits the fan. But, most of the time, like I said, if one system lasts 12 to 15 years, you times that by 2. Some customers, could outlive 3 different units. If you got if you got a customer that lived in that house for like 40, 50 years, maybe. But like for the most part, guys, like I say, customers don't have to typically replace their equipment, within 12 to 15 years, unless, like I said, they have some random occurrence come up. But guys, I say that to say this, man. I had this call yesterday, and like, this once again, guys, I'm gonna preface this by saying there's nobody to blame. It's not the customer's fault. It's not the installing company fault. It's not the manufacturer's fault. But shit does happen, guys. But I had this call yesterday. We came out here before. This is an existing maintenance customer. They have a high efficiency, I think 18 SEER Lennox heat pump, and they got a high efficiency Lennox air handler in the basement. Everything's decked out. I think they got like a 5 zone. Is it 5 or 6? I think it's at least 5 or 6 zones downstairs in the basement, like all zone dampers. Everything is new. Brand new ductwork, brand new everything. I don't know who installed this system, but I know this customer called us like last year or 2 years ago for maintenance, and like nothing was done. Actually, no, last year we came out there because I think the drain was backed up, and it opened the safety, and then the AC stopped working. So I think we went out there for a no AC call once. But guys, make a long story short, we called this customer last month, well, a few weeks ago for maintenance, and they got back to us 2 days ago, and they said that the customer said her husband went outside because the AC wasn't working. Her husband went outside, and the fan motor dropped inside the heat pump. And I'm like, oh shit. So guys, I get out there yesterday, and like as soon as I go look at that unit, and I mean, for you guys that been in this, shit happens. Based on how the customer was explaining it, I thought maybe a tree trunk or something hit the unit and it dropped down, because everything was fine last year when we came out there for the maintenance. But guys, like the housing on top of the condenser fan motor, the 4 screws, something must have happened in the motor, but the 4 screws were completely snapped off, and like surprisingly, guys, the condenser fan blade was still intact, but the condenser fan blade, literally, if you guys look inside that heat pump, it literally did a 360, guys. Like all the coils everything's ripped up, and of course, the refrigerator leaked out, and like at this point, guys, at a minimum, that customer's going to need a new condenser fan motor, and I mean, hopefully, with a leak check, hopefully we can fix that condenser coil. But guys, the damage is already done. But like, guys, what I did, since that was a 2018 heat pump, I called Lennox, and of course the warranty is expired. I think, whoever installed that unit, well, either or, like I said, it's on the installing company to explain the warranty procedures with customers. But I think that unit only had a 5-year warranty, so like nothing is under warranty. And like I'm like, shit, this unit is under 10 years old. And keep in mind, this is R410A, and they stopped making brand new R410A heat pumps. So like, guys, make a long story short, like I said, we didn't really get much help from Lennox. So like, I gave her the cost of the ECM. I mean, we actually went through a different supply house. We didn't use Lennox because at this point, they said they couldn't find parts for that unit. Guys, it was a whole whole clusterfuck of problems with that unit, guys. Like, we had to go through a third-party supplier, and like they said that they do have an ECM condenser fan motor, but the ECM condenser fan motor is like almost a month away. And I'm like, shit, like, and I explained to the customer, I'm like, look, this is not going to be a cheap repair, but one thing I did explain to the customer, once again, the purpose of this video is the total cost of ownership on high-end equipment. Guys, I tell you like this, just to preface this, high-end equipment does work well, and I explained this to the customer. She was really upset that, like I said, the cost of that motor was almost down there 4 times the cost of a universal motor. But I explained to her, like, there's pros and cons of high efficiency equipment, and I explained to her, I'm like, forget about the company that installed this, because like I said, it wasn't any install issues. This is just a wear and tear type of scenario. But you can't use universal parts on the 18 SEER Lennox heat pump. You have to go OEM, and I'm like, that's the peaks in the valley of high-end equipment. I'm like, when this stuff works, it works well. But one thing you have to keep in mind, I'm like, hey, this unit was put in 2018. It's only it's less than 10 years old. But I'm like, if you plan on living here past a certain point, you got to know this unit is eventually going to go out of warranty. And once things break down, I'm like, this can happen with any unit, not necessarily just high efficiency equipment, but a high efficiency furnace or a high efficiency air handler is nothing more than just, you know, a machine with electricity flowing through it, guys. Like, and I always try to explain things in a very basic and, you know, and like I said, simplified explanations, guys. I don't like to overcomplicate things, but I told the customer, like, forget about the efficiency. You know, this heat pump is nothing more than just a machine with electricity flowing through it. Unfortunately, things break, guys, and once things break, they're going to break on the hottest day of the year. And I'm like, that, you know, and she said, you know, during those 2 90-degree days that we had in PA, that system, you know, they tried turning it on, and that's when it happened. But like, at the end of the day, you know, like, of course, you know, this 20 series unit, when it works very well. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you look at your energy bills from when they installed it till now, a high efficiency system is designed to work at a fraction of the energy costs. You know, you're going to have way lower utility bills versus a traditional, you know, heat pump or a traditional AC system. So I'm like, we can't just chalk this repair up as a loss, because when this unit did work, it did provide, you know, not necessarily just comfort, but it did provide some energy savings. But I'm like, keep in mind, this isn't a brand new unit anymore. You know, once wear and tear, and, you know, guys, for you guys that don't already know, you know, heat pumps work year round. I'm like, this system, since we know that this system works year round, if you add 5 or 6 years of wear and tear in it, you know, something is eventually going to malfunction. So I'm like, you know, and like, she was really upset, like I said, with the cost, but I'm like, it's really nothing you can do. I'm like, you know, there's no need to call the company that installed it, because, you know, what are they going to do? You know, every piece of equipment has limited warranty, but like, I'm like, you can't, and guys, I put this on my shorts a couple of days ago. I'm like, a lot of customers don't understand that, like, not every system is going to last the test of time without breakdowns. I'm like, you know, they tell you online 12 to 15 years, that's a nominal range to go off of, but, you know, a furnace or AC or whatever, or a boiler, everything has maintenance items inside of it. And I'm like, maintenance items are typically things you can't see. It's not like customers are opening up their own units and doing their own maintenance, but like, it's usually smaller, you know, non-serviceable parts inside the system over time that could accrue wear and tear, and now, you know, things break down. But I'm like, you know, the downside of high efficiency equipment sometimes is that once the warranty goes out, you know, like I say, these customers are going to be stuck paying $2,000 or $3,000 for boards, inverters, you know, and like in ECM condenser fan motors. But guys, like, and I mentioned this yesterday, you know, but my volume wasn't working, guys. You know, a lot of customers, and this is the third customer, like I'm telling you guys, within the past 2 weeks, this is the third time this happened. Another customer, I think she had like, guys, I can tell, like I said, she was an elderly customer. I mean, this shit happens all the time. People sell, like I said, it is what it is. Like, people sell, you know, equipment to elderly customers, knowing that they don't even know how the fuck it works. Like, this customer, she had to be like in her 70s. She got like a 20 SEER, was it one of those, was it an Infinity? I don't think this one was an Infinity, but it was like a 20 SEER carrier AC unit, and like, the thermostat on the damn wall, guys, like, and I can tell, I mean, I can tell, like I said, whoever was there, she probably had her family member or somebody there with her, but I'm like, worst case scenario, I'm like, can this customer even switch the thermostat from heat to cool? I'm like, everything was high end, and I'm like, most of the time, guys, like I said, convenience is what really matters. You know, like, I understand, you know, and like I said, guys, this isn't a slight towards those that live and die by high efficiency equipment. We offer high efficiency equipment too, but guys, like, one thing you got to do, and I mentioned this, you know, yesterday, I'm going to reiterate a bunch of key points I talked about yesterday, is like, when I'm talking for you service techs or sales guys, you know, technically we're all, you know, service and sales is the same thing, because if you're on a no heat call or a no AC call, and if things can't be fixed, you know, at that point, you have to have that conversation with the customer in regards to, like I said, options for replacement. But most of the time, guys, and I mentioned this a bunch of times, guys, if you're on a sales call, or, you know, or a conversion call, like if you have a no AC call and the repair is not worth doing, if you got to bring that conversation up to the customer about replacing, of course, you know, you have to give the customers options, but you got to listen to what they're saying. Most of the time, guys, or if not all the time, if you're paying attention to them, a customer will tell you exactly what they want. I can give you a million and one scenarios. One in particular, like if we're on a AC estimate right now, let's say if a customer has a 20-year-old AC unit, and I go out there and I ask the customer, I'm like, hey, all right, well, by the way, we do have options. We have high end, and then we have economical options. I'm like, okay, well, did you have a certain brand or a certain efficiency you're looking for? If I ask, and I want you guys to pay attention, if I ask the customer, did you have a certain brand or a certain efficiency you're looking for? If they tell me they wanted a 16 SEER unit, hypothetically speaking, then I'm not going to necessarily try to push them down to a 12 SEER or push them up to you get what I'm saying, guys? Like, And I see, guys, I not necessarily just from other technicians. I hear stories like this from other customers where the customer told the guy exactly what they wanted, but the guy didn't listen, and like I said, that end up turning the customer off, and they end up going with someone else. But like, if a customer tells you they want a certain brand or a certain kind of unit, that should be easy slam dunk there. You don't talk yourself out of the sale, or you don't talk yourself out of doing business with a customer by promoting some shit that you know that they're not going to be interested in. You get what I'm saying? And I don't want you guys to get confused. When I say provide options, I provide options, but like I said, most of, if not all of our proposals are built around what the customer wanted. If the customer wanted, even if they wanted something economic, if they wanted to see, the dichotomy between, a 13 SEER unit and a 20 SEER unit, we can get them options for both. But the point is, I'm saying like this. All I'm saying is like, the point I'm driving home is like, every estimate you guys going, it should be tailored around that conversation you had with the customer. Like that cookie cutter approach, that, going to every customer's house, having written lines in your head, so I'm not knocking whoever taught you guys or, how your methods are, but like, you have to, like I said, you got to treat every situation different, because like I said, I told y'all this, if you go to an estimate right now with preconceived notions, just because you see a Lamborghini outside and it's a bunch of mansions outside, that don't necessarily mean that the customer is going to spend anything. Most of the time, like I said, they can be cheap as hell. Or you can go to the hood right now, guys, and I've seen this multiple times, and it can blow your head unless you've seen this before. You can go to a hood, go to an estimate right now. A customer wants a 5-zone mini split. You may say, you know what, man, I don't see no mini splits out here. I don't know if this customer can afford it. And they'll say, okay, how soon can you do this? Let's get this done tomorrow. So it's like, that's why I'm saying, guys, having preconceived notions in sales, it always comes back to bite you in the ass. And like I mentioned this yesterday, guys, you're not going to have your whole life to make the same mistake all over again. You should be learning from each and every one of your mistakes. I'm talking with sales, and like most of the time, guys, it's just listening, having active listening skills, listening to what the customers say, asking the right questions based on, what you're hearing the customer. Like I said, if they're really keyed in on a certain brand or certain, type of unit, then like I said, build your options around that, like don't leave money on the table, but like I said, putting some bullshit options together and like hoping the customer goes for it. But like, guys, like I said, to get back to the point, man, this customer had a freaking 20 SEER unit. She didn't even know how to work the thermostat. And I'm like, man, by the way, like, when they sold you this unit, like, was this something you wanted in particular? She was like, no, like my compressor went out and it was like 90 degrees that day. I needed something, cause I got medical issues. I can't be in the house that hot. And I'm like, well, man, like, just in case of emergency, are you cool with, coming up and down? Like guys, I'm telling you like this, that thermostat was high end. Like, in a way, I wanted to rip that thermostat off the wall and put in a regular, like I said, digital thermostat. But like, she told me she had to call her daughter whenever she needs to turn the thermostat up and down. And I'm like, damn, what happens if her daughter is busy and the house is burning up? Or like, you get what I'm saying, guys? I'm like, that even though that's a great unit, the unit was working fine. But I'm like, for someone, elderly customer that's not mobile, that wants something very simple, I'm like, that unit doesn't really serve the purpose. But like, the truth, and back to the main topic here, guys, before I get sidetracked here, the T.C.O, the true cost of ownership, man, of these high-end units. Like I said, once again, guys, we sell everything to economic, to high efficiency equipment, guys. So I'm not stuck at any point. Like I said, I can sell either or. It doesn't really matter. But guys, like I said, the point is, depends on what the customer wants. If you can provide the options, if you can provide service to match what the customer wants, then like I said, it's not, that's why I told the customer, it's not whoever sold you that, whoever sold that customer that Linux unit, it's not their fault. Like I said, that's what she wanted at that time. If she wanted the rebates and incentives from the government, I think it's like $2,000 or $1,500 at that time for any heat pump over 18 SEER. If that's what you wanted, that's great. But like, I told her, like, guys, we had like a 30-minute conversation about this. I'm like, I see this all the time, and I'm like, it sucks. What happened? What happened. We can't go back in the past. You got this unit now. You have to deal with it. But moving forward, like, you have to understand, with high-end equipment past an age, I'm telling you, like, once you get to like that 5 to 10 year range, once you get out of warranty, most warranties are 10 years, but that particular one was 5, or either 3 or 5. I forgot the exact time amount. But Linux said that, like I said, there is no warranty on that unit, and I'm like, once that high efficiency system gets out of warranty, not every customer is going to be okay with paying $3,000 every time, a power surge comes up and now the inverter board, shorts out. And like I said, guys, and I told the customer, sometimes it's not even about the price. the issue is the availability is like it's up in the air, and I'm like, me personally, guys, and this is my biggest gripe with like not necessarily high efficiency equipment, but with certain, and like say you guys have your horror stories with certain brands. Like me personally, guys, if I go to a customer's house, I like having the guarantees that I can get them up and going the same day. If not same day, probably within like a day or two, guys. So like, I hate going to a, and like I said, you guys probably go through this right now. You go on a no AC call, you got a bad circuit board. Who knows what the name of the brand is? Who even cares about it? You call the supply house. No supply house has parts for that model in stock. The only supplier that has parts for that manufacturer, they're saying that the lead time on that board or the lead time on that motor is like probably a month or two away. And I'm like, guys, think about this in practicality here. How would you explain that to a customer that, hey, like, man, by the way, right now it's 90 degrees outside. Your issue is a bad circuit board, but no one has his board. It's not in stock for 2 months. And I'm like, you like that doesn't even make any fucking sense. You get what I'm saying? But then like I had this conversation yesterday with this customer. I'm like, look, you gotta understand, like, let's try to play devil's advocate here. Let's try to think like this manufacturer. It can be Linux, train carrier, it doesn't even matter. I'm like, tell you what, let's say if we manufacture this system right here, it's 18 series, 19 series. I'm like, I'm pretty sure, every manufacturer knows who's spending what and like what type of equipment they're buying in certain areas. So like, let's say we're in Florida, we're in California, we're in Pennsylvania. Right now, in our neighborhood in Pennsylvania, let's say, there's a 500,000 people right now in our neighborhood, and only 100 of those 500,000 people bought this, hypothetically speaking, this 20 series Linux unit. Okay, and now us as the manufacturer, if only 100 people bought this equipment and everybody else got standard efficiency, guess what? All these supply houses, they're not really going to stock parts for equipment that people don't buy. They take things on a case-by-case basis. And I explained this to the customer. I'm like, hey, if you're the only person in this neighborhood, presumably got this 20, guess what? Unfortunately, when things work well, they work well. But when it breaks down, not every supply house, especially not locally, they're not going to have, parts readily available because this is not a common system. For instance, like I said, a mid-level, a 14 series unit, a 16 series unit, you can probably find parts for that because those are a lot more features. They're a lot more, prevalent. There are a lot more people have them. But like these 20 series units, guys, like, and I say this, like I said, this is not a slight towards any manufacturer or any companies. Like half of these units, guys, like the lead time on these parts are like 3 or 4 weeks away. And I'm not mad at people that, like I said, and I hate to say this, guys, like, and this shit could avoid warranties, but like, I heard this the other day. Like a guy said, like, he had a lead time of like 3 months on this ECM motor. He had to put in a PSC motor because like the customer didn't want to wait 3 months for a motor to come in. And I'm like, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But like, I mean, I understand it from the manufacturer standpoint, guys. Like, imagine, you being a premier manufacturer in the area, and only 10 people buy a 20 series unit. It won't make sense to stock supply houses with parts that a lot of people are not going to need, especially at that time. So like, I get it, but it's like at the same time, like, I feel like me personally as a service tech, parts should be ready available. Like what sense? Me personally, guys, like I said, I don't know how you guys are wired, but like if I sell a customer a new heat or a new AC unit, best believe if something goes wrong, we're showing up to fix it. But like, I don't really care about the initial sell, guys, because like I said, an idiot can sell a customer a brand new system. So I don't care about, like I said, the sell. I look at behind the curtains, like the cost of ownership within 5 years. Do the customer know how important maintenance is? Do the customer know, how important, or do the customer know that warranties don't last forever? And like, I mean, I think Goodman has, or Amanda has, lifetime warranties on compressors or something like that. But gosh, most warranties only cover the bigger items like compressors, like maybe heat exchangers, compressors. I'm not even going to say condenser coils, because sometimes, like I said, unless it's a defect from the manufacturer, that customer's shit out of luck. They're stuck, they're stuck with a 2-month lead time and a $2,000 price, give or take, for a new condenser coil. And I'm like, guys, like I said, I mean, this is the downside to, like, high efficiency equipment. I mean, the shit I'm telling y'all, guys, you're not going to find this online because, like I said, this is not popular. And I told this customer, I'm like, unfortunately, like I said, not every company is going to be honest with you, because for one, if they tell you, like, yeah, tell you what, this 20 series unit, this is great for your energy bills, but when this thing gets past 6 years, you're going to be stuck paying $4,500 for inverter boards. Now, if you tell that to any customer with a half a brain, they're going to be like, hell no, why would I want to spend money on something that I know is going to cost all all that hypothetical lower utility bills you're saving now, you're gonna have to pay that shit back. And I'm like, and like I said, unfortunately, guys, like I said, I mean, you as the company that comes out 6 years later, you know, you're gonna have to be the guy that explains that to the customer, like, hey, I understand what was when you bought this thing, but here's what is. All you have is, like I said, a machine with electricity flowing through it, and these parts are very rare if you can get, and if you can't get them, it's going to be very expensive. And I'm like, some customers end up ripping that out and putting in standard efficiency equipment, and I can't blame them, guys, because, like, you know, who wants it? Like, the shit I'm telling y'all, like, right now it's like 70 degrees outside. Who wants to deal with this on a 95-degree day? If you guys look at your local forecast, and if all the next week's going to be 100 degrees, imagine you being being a customer in that house, stuck in a 100-degree house. Now you know you paid 20 grand or 30 grand. I think she paid for that whole 18 series setup. Imagine you paying all that money now, and I was paying that money a couple of years ago, and now look at what it got you. Like, you can't even get parts for it. It's not even just about the cost. It's about no availability. Now, like, I'm telling you, like, and that's why I can't blame customers for being upset about it, because, like, they're always gonna get the short end of the stick with certain pieces of equipment. That's why, like I said, guys, I don't care. You know, like I said, I like keeping it 100 with customers. Like I say, good or bad, it doesn't. You know, and like I said, I say it like this, guys. Like, a lot of companies probably won't tell customers the TCO of high-end equipment, because, like I said, they still want to sell that to the customer. If a customer wants the high-end equipment, I can sell anything to a customer if they want it. But me personally, guys, like I said, you know, maybe I got some moral decency. I got a fiber of moral decency in me. I'll tell the customer like this: hey, tell you what, you know, did you have a brand or certain series you're looking for? Yeah, I want a 50 series unit. I want this. It looks good. It looks good. All right, well, tell you what, this is great, but you have to understand, this is only a 10-year warranty, you know, item, and the warranty only covers major parts. And I'm like, and most of the time, guys, when I explain this to customers, they look at me like I got two heads, and I break it down like this. Look, you see this compressor, you see this heat exchanger, you see this coil. If you're lucky, this is all that's going to be covered. But you do have an inverter board, you do have, you know, XYZ. Once this goes out within 5 years, I understand that, you know, you got incentives and rebates right now up to $2,000. But whatever you save now, you know, think about this in 5 years. You know, are you going to be here past 5 years? If not, then, like I said, you can do what you want. But if you're planning on being here past 5 years, this is something you got to take into account. You need maintenance done on this unit every year to keep these inverter boards clean. And then 2, you have to take into account, once things break, hopefully you can get parts for it. And, like, guys, I'm telling you, like, this is real deal shit. Because, like I said, I deal with this all the time. And, like, every single time I explain this to customers, they appreciate it, because, like I said, you can't, everything I'm telling y'all, you're not going to see online unless, like, say, it happened to you or someone you know. But, like, a lot of consumers, you know, like, and we can chalk it up by saying, like, consumers should do their due diligence. But, like, guys, if you look online right now, any manufacturer, that's why I'm telling you, this is not against Linux, this is not against Carrier, this is not against anything. Every single manufacturer, they only promote the positive. They don't necessarily promote the negative. So, like, what that means is, like, if you look up a 20 SEER or 21 SEER Linux unit, it's going to tell you energy efficient, stainless steel, blase. But is it going to tell you how much those parts cost past 5 years old? I highly doubt it. Like, guys, I'm telling you right now, this is real deal shit. If one of these suppliers actually did that, or one of these manufacturers did that, put the price and availability of these said components, I highly doubt people will buy it. Because, like I said, you know, they'll, you know, and that's the name of the game, guys. You got to respect the finesse. You got to sell the squeeze. You don't sell the lemon. You know, no one wants the lemon. They just want the juice that comes out the lemon. So, like, it is what it is, guys. Like I said, that's why I understand why some companies don't say anything. Because, like I said, you know, at the end of the day, we're not manufacturers. We're just service providers. But, you know, I told that customer, like, I hate to say it, you know, even if she looked this stuff up, you're not going to find anything. It takes you having a service tech or a company that already been through this and has the wherewithal enough to, like I said, help you prevent this. But I'm like, not every customer that has this system is going through the same problem as you. Maybe, like I said, these units can last 30 years, but we also got to be realistic too. Not every system is going to last that long without some type of issue. So, like, you know, she was upset, but like I said, guys, like, I was able to at least reason with her, like, enough for her to understand. Like, you know, I told her, like, there's really no point of calling the manufacturer, calling the, you know, whoever installed it. You know, what's done is done. But, you know, this is just a normal occurrence. Like, a tree didn't fall inside that unit. There was no debris, nothing around that unit. I told her, like, maybe the motor, something went wacky inside the motor, started vibrating, then the screws came loose, and then the motor hit, like I said, chewed up everything. But, like, I told her, guys, like I say, I seen this stuff all the time, but like, I like to, like, and the old saying is true, guys, like, you want to be a preventer. Like, you don't, I'm talking you as a service tech, you as whatever the fuck you are. Like, you don't want to be stuck, like, fixing everything. Eventually, guys, you want to prevent things. Like, you don't want to be, because like I said, once you kind of like stuck in that dynamic of like, going to everything after it happened, like, eventually, like I said, like, that's not going to be, you're going to be stuck, like I said, patching holes and fixing holes. Like, most of the time, if I'm on a no AC call, you better believe, like I said, if that customer isn't there, I'll get the customer on the phone. I'm sending them pictures like, hey, here's what I'm doing today, but most importantly, here's what we can do to avoid it. Here's what we can do to prevent it. Now, will every customer heed that advice? No, but like, that's not my problem. The point is, like I said, if you know fire is hot and you got burnt once, or somebody told you it's hot and they got burnt, it's either you should listen to it or you don't. That's what I'm saying, guys. Like, maintenance is not for every customer. I know some customers that only call us when something's broke. If you try to sell them maintenance, most of the time they're not going to answer the phone, which is cool. They do what works for them, and like I said, they just call us when they need us. But for a lot of customers, that's not a large, number. Some customers, like I said, they don't really care about heater AC. They just call you when they need you. That's cool. But for most customers, when I say most, I mean 95% of them, they appreciate, like I said, someone not only that knows how to fix it, but they know how to prevent future issues. And that's the name of the game, guys. But like, unfortunately, man, like I said, it really puts you guys, I'm talking US HVAC techs, these 20 series units breaking down, it puts you guys in the hole, because like, at the end of the day, even if you guys installed it, let's say we installed that 18 series unit, I highly doubt we would have installed that without the customer knowing about what can happen with the TCO down the line. But like, even if we installed it, guys, let's say the customer they want the energy rebates, they want the, they want the reduced utility costs of a 20 series unit. If we installed it and it worked fine, and after 5 years it breaks down, guys, we're not the manufacturer. We just fix this stuff, and we get parts from the suppliers. But like, whoever, like I said, manufactures these parts, if they don't have parts available on the East Coast, and you got to wait a month or a couple of weeks, guys, like, we're not in control of that. And that's why, like I said, guys, like, instead of me downplaying, instead of me, feel some type of way about high efficiency equipment, I just tell customers, hey, if this is what you want, here's the pros and cons. If that's what you want, here's the pros and cons. Once again, guys, the primary focus of the service tech is to provide information and let the customer choose. If I tell the customer right now that, hey, here's the TCO, hey, what's the TCO? Total cost of ownership. Here's what the system is going to do for you within 5 years. Your energy bill is going to be low, but after 5 years, once the wear and tear builds up, here's the good and here's the bad. Can you find parts for it? Yeah, because right now, the manufacturer's still making parts for this, but this isn't a common piece of equipment. Now, if I go through all that and the customer still wants to do it, then I mean, good luck. But the point is, like, they can never come back and call us and say that, hey, you never told us that, this could happen. No, we did. But if that's what you wanted, then that's what you wanted. Like I said, guys, we don't pinch people's arms and make them do anything. But like I mentioned this yesterday, guys, unfortunately, not every customer is going to have foresight. And for two, if it's real hot or real cold, guys, that can mess up your thinking, guys. Like, that customer, like I mentioned earlier, that 70-year-old customer that had that 20 series unit, she said that her house is 90 degrees, and she knew that she couldn't stay in the house for that long. She didn't want to get the hotel, so she ended up buying, whatever the guy sold. I mean, whatever got, sold to her with, like, like I said, guys, that situation was fucked up, but like, it is what it is, guys. Like I said, I actually mentioned this yesterday to a customer. It wasn't that call, it was like on the maintenance. I told the customer like this, like, most of the time, a lot of people, and this is just normal, like, a lot of customers don't really care about heater AC until something breaks, or if they need a new heater AC system. But I told the customer like this, I'm like, it costs you nothing. It may take you, like I said, this is all on your time. This is on your leisure. If your heater AC system is still working, but it's older, if it's like 15 to 20 years old, start looking up, what's new right now. And I told him, a lot of customers still don't know that they stopped making 14A equipment last summer. And I'm like, they probably won't know about this, or they probably won't care about it until their system breaks down. But by you at least knowing what's out there, not necessarily meaning you have to like get estimates or you have to go out and like buy anything. No, just see what's out there. Like, know that, hey, even though, like I said, you didn't have to pay any money for your AC system in the past couple of years, that don't mean that eventually it's not going to break down. That's the naive thinking that just because it didn't happen now, it's not going to happen in the future. No, shit breaks, and that's just that's the facts of how it works, But like I said, guys, I deal with this shit all the time. Like, I feel like, every customer can benefit from, having some foresight. But unfortunately, guys, like all this information I'm telling y'all, like it comes at a disadvantage. Like most of these customers are not going to understand this until either they go through this having a 20-series unit, with parts 3 months away, or they're gonna have to, they're gonna have to hear it through hear it through the grapevine, having a friend or a relative, wait that long. But like I said, guys, I like selling convenience. I like selling guarantees. I don't like selling the bullshit and the fluff. Like I said, I like, the type of people we do business with. Like I said, they know what they want to get, and like I said, they just want they want equipment that they can rely on. Like like I said, guys, right now it's only 72 degrees out. Right now, this is window opening season. Like the past 2 days has been, a little warm, but like I said, most of next week, this is all window opening season. So like right now, there isn't really a demand for an AC unit to do much, but I want you to revisit that sentence in a couple of weeks. Once the second week of May hits, that's when the humidity goes up, and like I said, these iffy units, like these units right now that's running on duct tape and bubble gum, once it gets real hot, something's going to go, and like I said, now we're going to be right back to square one, So, guys, like I said, I can talk about this shit for days, man, but I just want to go in here and talk with y'all, like I said, about, the T.C.O. A lot of customers really not understanding, what it really looks like, have the latest and greatest unit. Latest and greatest now may not be latest and greatest in 5 years, but, it's a lot of things that can go against, what the customer want in a couple of years, but guys, like I said, what do we know? We're just service techs. We don't make the equipment. The only thing we do is, like I said, we educate customers, and like I said, if the customer gets what they want, then like I said, that's a good deal. But sometimes, like I said, availability is not in favor. If we don't make the part, we just buy it from whoever has it. Like I said, that's where shit can get kind of wacky here. But guys, I'm about to get up out of here. But be sure to check out what I got. I got another vlog I got to put up. I got 2 videos I got to edit. But like I said, guys, that Lennox 18-series heat pump, I'm gonna put that up if not today, tomorrow. But I gotta put together another one before I bring that one out. But guys, I got a bunch of content coming out the factory. Like I said, one is gonna go up today, another one's gonna go up tomorrow, and then next week, what I got next week? I got to do a leak check next week. Was it? Nah, I don't think I put this one up on video. I think I was here for the furnace, and then the customer told me that they had a leak last summer. I think she called me last week. I'm gonna go out there next week. She wants to do a leak check. She wants to see. I think she has a 410A straight AC cooling condenser. She wants to see if the unit can be fixed, or if the leak is past point of fixing and they got to get it replaced. So, guys, be on the lookout with that. And what else I got next week without looking at the schedule? I had one customer. We put him on the schedule for maintenance late next week, but he called. What was this? 2 days ago. Guys, what's today's Saturday? He called actually on Thursday, the second day of this 90-degree heat. He called Thursday. He was like, "Yeah, I know you said you're gonna come out Friday, but can you get out here sooner?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" He was like, "Yeah, I tried using my AC and it crapped out." And I'm like, "Yep." I mean, not guys. I mean this a handful of times last week to customers. I'm like, you can't really test the AC. I'm talking, the integrity of the system. Like, right now, guys, it's 72 degrees out. You don't really need AC, but like, the only way you can really tell if AC is doing its job is, like, say, give it 2 or 3 days of runtime when it gets real hot. I'm talking in Pennsylvania, 90 degrees with some decent humidity. It doesn't have to be, like I said, July heat, but once Wednesday and Thursday came along, once that customer tried to use that unit, like, he knew that, like I said, the air coming out wasn't as cold as it used to be. So, like, guys, I gotta put. I mean, he was on the schedule for Friday, but I'm gonna try to move that up to Monday and see what we can do there. But guys, with that being said, guys, I gotta rock out. I hope you guys are making the most out of whatever you're going against. Like I say, guys, this is summer madness. You gotta keep your boots laced up, and like I say, hopefully you're getting some money out of it. But guys, I gotta rock out. Let me look at the comments here. I didn't even see these. Hold on. Matthew, what's going on? Paulino, what's going on? Frank, what's going on? Yep. Yeah, customers don't want to pay for maintenance. I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, guys, like, and you heard me mention this before, I don't force customers to do anything. Like the shit I tell y'all, I tell this to every single customer. I can tell you the importance of why maintenance, is needed. And I'm saying to every single customer, meaning not every system is going to look the same. If one system is covered in spider webs, one system is covered in dirt, I can use relative points that customers can understand that will make them understand why maintenance is important. I'm not reading off a script. I can look at a piece of equipment and tell if maintenance can improve, the lifespan of the unit. But if I explain everything in detail and the customer don't want to do it, guess what, guys? My job, my work is done. Like I said, education is key. Last thing I want to do is, last thing I want to run across is a customer, like I said, having a compressor short at the ground. And like I said, they tell me, I never knew maintenance is important. Well, like I said, you guys seen the video I put up a couple months ago. Well, actually, when was this last winter? Guys, make a long story short, this customer had an Evcon heat pump. We went out there, it had to been like 2 years ago. The capacitor was like a 45 cat. And like every single time we go out there, the cat was lower. I think one time it was at 40, it was at 39, 38, 37. It like 2 straight summers, guys. I don't know how that unit was running like that, but we told her, I'm like, hey man, like, here's what the number should be at, here's what you're at. The number is like damn near half of what it should be at. I'm like, eventually this capacitor could cause something to break on your unit. And like she didn't really care. She was like, oh well, no, you can just put it back. If it's working, it's working. Sure enough, guys, that was in the summer. And like last winter, right during actually this is 2 winters ago. So what I'm telling you happened 3 years ago. This was 3 summers ago. The following winter, which was 2 years ago, she tried using the heat and like she noticed her energy bills were real high. And as soon as I went out there, guys, the compressor was short at the ground. The breakers was tripped. And like I tried putting in the new hard start kit. It was already too late. So like I told her, I'm like, unfortunately, this is avoidable. And like from that moment on, like I said, she never missed a maintenance appointment. But like, guys, I hate to say it, Frank, just to answer your question there, like a lot of people have to go. I don't know why it's like that, but like I said, a lot of people have to go through their worst case scenarios to really understand what's important. And like I said, if once again, guys, just to encapsulate that, like if maintenance is not important, like the only thing you can do is frustrate a customer. If it's not important to them, if they don't really care about it, if you keep talking about it, then like I said, that's going to be an unpleasant experience. But once again, if you keep the power in the customer's hands, let them choose what they want to do. It's only your job. Your job as a service tech is to educate them. They can pick whatever they want to do, but if they know what the pros and cons are behind that decision making, they can't lose. But will that ideology work for everybody? Nope. But like I said, guys, with that being said, I'm about to get up out of here. Keep rocking and rolling, guys.